Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Friday, November 19th, and this is virtual lunch number 438. Our guest today is Maurus Schreyvogel, Chief Legal Innovation Officer at Novartis International, and this is part of our continuing series on understanding new law with Calexius. Hi, Maurus. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So I'm super excited about this, Maurus. And tell us about your background and your role at Novartis.
I decided at a very young age that I wanted to be a lawyer, probably for all of the wrong reasons. I was impressed by the nice suits, the expensive cars, and all the status that the profession brought with it. That was strong enough for me to go to law school, which in Switzerland is a first degree. So I did a lot of IT training, IT teaching. And then when I started to work in a law firm, I was quite surprised with the way people expected me to work. And I tried for a little while, but I wasn't happy. And I thought, probably I'm just not a very good lawyer. So I changed and went from law firm in-house. I still felt a little bit like an alien. Everybody is so busy moving forward and delivering. We just don't take time to think and sit down and improve the way we work. So I wanted to leave Novartis, and there was the country president of the US, which is where I was working at that time, who more or less hauled me back. And he said, well, if you don't like being a lawyer, that's okay, but maybe you still like Novartis. Why don't you go and do a rotation into internal audit? Which is what I did. And that was an absolute fabulous suggestion, because in pieces of 3 weeks, I had the opportunity to learn how other functions operate. And I was allowed to ask as many questions as I wanted to, and people had to take the time to answer them because they're being audited. And what I learned during audit was there is this thing called operational excellence that everybody seems to be engaged in, and people had a lot of pride in trying to just be at the top of their game. With that in my background, an opportunity came across. I was asked by the head of internal audit to develop an audit program for the legal function. At that point in time, legal has never been audited before. So I developed the program, and since I was the only lawyer within the internal audit group, a couple of months later, I was asked to run the audit of the legal function. And then in 2017, I was asked to become a member of the global legal leadership team of Novartis, and my role transformed from looking at providing operations for today into helping the function to reimagine how we wanted to provide legal services in the future. And with that, I got this really fancy title that I love and picked myself of the Chief Innovation Officer for the function. We are having this debate right now around contracting, which isn't a legal discussion, but which is an enterprise discussion. The discussion around what is our contracting culture? So meaning, how do we want to appear as an organization on the market? How do we want to be perceived by our business partners, the people that we are collaborating together with, in order to bring medicines, to bring therapies to market? And this is where it's truly amazing to see how much potential we have, because we've been quite narrow in how we interpreted how our contribution is supposed to be. And these discussions are absolutely fascinating, because there's more and more people who initially didn't really think people like me were needed, who now realize that what we do with this movement is quite liberating and provides an enormous potential to have even a greater purpose than they had before. The biggest contribution is people innovation, rethinking what legal services are, helping people to just reimagine their purpose. We went open legal, for instance, where we adopted one NDA, which suggests that Novartis no longer drafts our own NDAs. We use a white label NDA, and we commit to not changing this because we share the belief that strategic relevance and risk exposure is really low. So we're not going to spend time on this, but we are joining in this, what we think is a really great initiative.
I was at a conference just this week where we had a big discussion about team culture within in-house legal departments. And they were talking about how there is still quite a significant divide between lawyers and non-lawyers. I don't know if that's the right term. And that a lot of the legal ops people were still struggling a little bit to get not necessarily recognition, but to feel like they were part of a cohesive team. So I was just wondering from your perspective, and especially since you basically created your own job, you created your own function, do you feel that it's a problem, maybe not in your department, but is it something that you've come across where there's still a divide between lawyers that are purely lawyers and everybody else?
So when I started this job, my interpretation of the role was I need to be this invisible source that provides a backbone of technology and processes in order for the function to just work well. So I felt like these English movies of the 19th, 18th century where servants have their own halls that they walk in parallel to where the important people are being in. That's more or less how I interpreted my role. I tried to enable things and be silent and hope that technology wouldn't fail me. And that's what I got. I was ignored. I wasn't taken for important. And I didn't know whether what I was important in the beginning. I just saw that other functions thought that operational excellence and trying to engage in continuous improvement was important. But I was really insecure. I wasn't sure whether this is important within legal as well, or whether it's okay that we still practice more or less the same as the Romans did. So it took time for me to build up my confidence level and to dare voicing opinions on how we worked. We shouldn't forget we're a relatively young role within the legal profession. So we need to fill our room. We need the confidence. And I failed the people that started working within my field for a very long time because I taught them all the wrong things. I taught them to be quiet. I taught them that things just need to work. Give people time. It will take a generation or two until the lawyer, non-lawyer split disappears, but it's certainly not an important grouping that some people still do.
There's a lot of talk about digital transformation, and I do think technology is an important enabler to become better at what it is that we do. Within our own profession, I'd rather speak about the transformation of the profession, the transformation of how we work, because first we need to change here, we need to bring this to work, and we need to feel good coming to work with heart and mind, because somehow, at least I've felt for a very long time, lawyers are needed for their intellect, not necessarily for their feelings, and we shouldn't be too feely touchy and bring our hearts to work. That's reserved for our families and friends. And when working on this program around fair patient agreements, this is where I realize how stupid that is. We need to bring the best version that we can be to work, and that includes both brain and heart every day with everything that we do. And then adding a little bit of technological understanding provides us with a little bit of superpowers to just be better and faster and more complete with what it is that we do.
Maurus Schreyvogel, everybody. Inspiring as always. Thanks to you, Maurus, for joining us today. Thanks to the Collexius team for supporting our series on understanding new law. Every time we have a conversation, I really leave inspired, and I'm so grateful to you for your time.